Good afternoon. Welcome to the White House, and for those of you viewing online, welcome as well. My name is Aaron Hannigan, and I work in the Office of Public Engagement here at the White House. I want to be the first to welcome all of you, and especially thank all of our champions of change who we're here to honor today, who are entrepreneurial mentors. If we can just start with a round of applause for all of our champions. We're looking forward to a great event with our champions today, and I would encourage everyone to learn more about our champions by going to www.whitehouse.gov/champions. All of their stories and their blogs are going to be on the website today, so I urge you all to check out a little bit more about each of them. Now, but before we begin our discussions with our champions, we have a few special guests. First up is my boss, John Carson. John is Deputy Assistant to the President and Director of the Office of Public Engagement. John?
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our champions. Welcome to the White House. I'm John Carson, and I just have two brief things for everyone here in the audience, for our champions and everyone online. I want to tell you a little bit about the Champion of Change program, how we envisioned it, where it has gone, how it has evolved. And then I have a concrete ask for each and every one of you here in our audience, watching online, and in particular for our Champions of Change. You know, the goal of the Champions of Change program is to shine a spotlight on people like our champions today who are making change happen in their community, in their networks, in their neighborhoods. We know there's two things we know here at the Obama administration, here in this White House. First is that we have no monopoly on good ideas, and that the best ideas are coming from folks like our champions here today, from mentors all across the country in every issue area you could talk about. The other thing we know is that, well, there are policy fights, and there are legislative fights, and there are things that we're going through here in Washington, D.C., that while these arguments are happening and the president is trying to lead the country, that while that's going on, there are millions of people across this country every single day who are making their community better, who are leading change, who are champions of change, just like our incredible team here today. And so my ask for each and every one of you, whether you're watching online or here on stage, is to please tell your story. What we often see with champions, whether it's been some groups we've had in the past, people who are leading the effort against domestic violence in their community, or a group of chefs that we had who partnered with local school districts to bring the Let's Move ideas to a school near them. What we've seen is that often our champions are a little bit humble. They're not necessarily the ones to tell their story, but what we've also seen is that when they do, they inspire others to action. They are a role model, and people look at their story and say, if that can be done, if here's a story of how someone else can do it, I want to be a part of making that change happen as well. So whether you're online today, here in the audience, tell the story of what you saw today, what you were inspired by. Tell the story of a mentor that you had. I think that's what's so fantastic about this Champions of Change event we're doing today. Everyone can connect to the idea of a mentor in their own life, and no area is more important than what you're doing right now, helping, as some have said, well, we're at halftime in America, helping lead that next generation that's going to be being entrepreneurs and creating jobs across the country. So tell your story, blog about it, write about it, tweet about it, stop 3 people in the grocery store tomorrow, tell them what you saw here, but mostly to our champions, help tell the story of what you've been able to do to inspire others to be a part of this. And I think it's very fitting that our next speaker here at the White House is someone who we'd have talk to our champions of mentors of entrepreneurs, because he's someone who here in the White House and wherever he's worked has been a mentor to so many people, helping young people learn the keys to leadership, learn how to be successful. Our Deputy Assistant to the President and Liaison for Strategic Engagement, Michael Strautmanis.
All right, don't worry, folks. We're only going to have you standing for a little while longer, but I'll try to make this quick. Well, welcome to the White House. Thank you for conquering the stairs to be able to join us. Thank you for taking time out from your busy schedules, your businesses, your high growth businesses, and your mentees to come and spend some time to join us. I'll echo John's comments. Please tell people that you were here. You know, sometimes, I don't know if you know this, people can get a little cynical about not only about government, but really about the intersection of the business community and government, and frankly about where we are in this country. And these are inspirational stories. These are stories that people can connect with. And it may take this kind of story to take that one person who has that great idea that knows they could be a success, reach out and find a mentor and take it to the next level. May inspire that one person who wants to offer something, wants to give something back to their community, to reach out. And it's those connections that have always made this country great and that will continue to. I want to say hello on behalf of a few people, the best part of the job. Hi on behalf of the president. He's not here. He's out of the White House today on the road in North Carolina, spending some time with a company that's doing great work. Valerie Jarrett, who we all work for, who leads this effort, she's with him. She says hello. I want to say thank you to our partners at the Small Business Administration, at the Minority Business Development Administration, those folks who are having boots on the ground, who are in your communities. So when you want to get that extra helping hand, when you want to see how you can partner with government, offer your products and services to the government, you got a place to walk into in your communities. And so I want to thank folks for that. And one of the other jobs that I have here is I am a senior advisor. I wear a lot of hats. I'm a senior advisor to the President's Council on Jobs and Competitiveness. And one of the people that's on that Jobs Council is this guy named Steve Case, pretty good entrepreneur himself. And the president asked him to lead an effort that we call Startup America, which is really a focus on those high-growth businesses that are really doing most of the hiring and job creation in our country today. So, you know, you can get a loan, yes. You can get a small business contract, a government contract, yes. But sometimes it's that knowledge and that training that's really vital to growth of small businesses. And so I thought it was really appropriate, we thought it was appropriate to take some time off and to talk about mentoring, a subject that, as you heard, is near and dear to my heart. I have the privilege of leading the boys' mentoring program here at the White House. The boys get me, the girls get the First Lady. We'll let you decide who gets the better hand here, but I'm struggling to try to keep up with her. But mentoring is important, and frankly, when I was a young man trying to figure out what direction I was going in, I got a mentor. She's now the First Lady of the United States. So I know what mentoring can mean in the life of someone who has ideas, has energy, but wants to follow on the right path. And so I just want to let everybody know that we get it. Entrepreneuring, mentoring is important. It leads to success. It leads to job creation. And it leads to people being able to fulfill that simple American dream, to follow their passions where they can lead it and to provide for themselves, their family, and their community. So, you know, there's no better, only person who can help a plumber is another plumber, right? So talk about this. Let's get out there and do this. Let us help us build your mentorship up so you can go out there and do what you do best, get small businesses growing and creating jobs. Thank you so much, everyone. And with that, I'm going to turn it back up to the person we all really work for, Aaron Hannigan.
Thank you, Michael. Now we're pleased to introduce our final speaker for the beginning portion here. We're pleased to hear from Marie Johns, the Deputy Administrator of the Small Business Administration. She's an incredible advocate on this issue, and we're honored to have her join us here today. So, Marie.
Thank you, Aaron, and thank you to everyone for being here. And I don't want Michael to hear this, but I actually think I have the best job this morning because I have the opportunity to introduce you to these phenomenal folks who are being honored this morning as champions of change. They're the ones who really are on the front lines of the economy, working closely with small businesses. And when the president talks about the economy that's built to last, he's talking about small businesses and he's talking about people like our champions who help make that happen. As you'll see from their introductions, they represent a very wide range of organizations and portfolios where they're working with people through initiatives like Startup America, as well as veterans, young people, et cetera. And I've had the great privilege of working with some of these champions, and I know firsthand about the tremendous work that they're doing. Many of them work directly with the SBA as part of our resource partner network, SCORE, our small business development centers, and through that network, the SBA is able to touch over 1 million entrepreneurs every year, and we couldn't do that without the support of our resource partners. And why is all this important? It's because of some very clear statistics. First of all, half of the people working in our economy are working for a small business. And secondly, over the last 15 plus years, 2 out of every 3 new private sector jobs has been created by a small business. And so the privilege of hearing from our champions and their role in making that happen is very important and special for all of us. I know firsthand about the power of mentoring as well. I had a long career at Verizon, and during my time at the company, mentoring certainly was a priority, both mentoring individuals and mentoring many of the small businesses who were our customers. And I know firsthand about the personal and professional fulfillment that mentoring provides. There was a quote I wanted to share this morning from that great writer of our age, Maya Angelou, and I think it really captures very well what mentoring is all about. Maya Angelou said, quote, you shouldn't go through life with a catcher's mitt on both hands. Sometimes you have to throw something back, end quote. And that's what these great people are doing. They're throwing back their experience, they're throwing back the benefit of their years of working, what they've learned, the lessons that they're passing on, and that makes all the difference, particularly in today's very competitive business environment. So, with that, the introduction. As I call your name, just give a little wave so everybody knows who we're celebrating. Dr. Susan Amat is the co-founder and executive director of the Launchpad at TOEFL, the Entrepreneur and Innovator Resource Center at the University of Miami. She's also the author of the Entrepreneurship Tools column in the Miami Herald and serves on several committees, including the steering committee of Startup Florida, which is a Startup America partnership. Welcome. Carol Atack is the Supplier Diversity Program Manager for Accenture. She helps run a formal mentoring program in which Accenture executives team with a diverse array of suppliers to help them develop and grow their businesses. And Carol also works with the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce to counsel aspiring entrepreneurs in the LGBT community. Michael Burcham is the President and CEO of the Entrepreneur Center in Nashville, Tennessee. In its first 2 years of operations, the center has screened over 800 startup concepts, has graduated over 25 companies from its accelerator program, and helped these startup entrepreneurs raise over $7.5 million in seed and angel investment. Samira Cook Gaines serves as the founding director of the Washington, D.C. Women's Business Center, and I have the pleasure of working with Samira on a regular basis. She's doing great work, and she focuses on providing women entrepreneurs with the knowledge to create stable business foundations and growth through training and technical assistance. Sheriff A. Ibrahim, who unfortunately couldn't be here with us today, is president and CEO of the Strategic Management Group. He's been an instructor for the Small Business Administration's Emerging 200, or E200 initiative in New Orleans, Louisiana. Pablo Fuentes is a first-generation immigrant from Chile and is currently founder and CEO of Proven.com. He's also involved with the SpringWorks Scholars Program and the New Me Accelerator, where he mentors minority entrepreneurs. My friend Ted Lasser is a decorated Vietnam War veteran and someone I had the privilege of working with on our Young Entrepreneurs Initiative. Ted serves as president and executive director of the Veteran Entrepreneurial Transfer, Inc., or VET Transfer, and he leverages 34 years of experience in executive management and entrepreneurship to help a new generation of veterans start and run businesses. Tom Loria is area manager for the North Charleston Area Small Business Development Center, one of SBA's esteemed resource partners in South Carolina. In that role, he assists both startups and existing companies in their pursuit of financial success. Emily Niehaus is founder and executive director of Community Rebuilds, a nonprofit whose mission is to build energy-efficient housing, provide education on sustainability, and improve the housing conditions of the workforce through an affordable program. Nancy Strojny is chair of the Portland, Maine chapter of SCORE. She's also principal of Beauty Vantage, a small consulting firm focusing on building brands for businesses worldwide. Nancy offers her SCORE clients the benefit of over 25 years of business expertise in marketing and sales. And last but not least, Lisa Walker. Lisa serves on the advisory board of the Clean Energy Trust and is founder and managing director of Leadership Capital Advisors, an executive search firm that focuses on general management, commercialization, and operational leadership. Let's give them all a great round of applause. And now you'll get the chance to hear from them directly. We're going to start our first panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marie. Now we're going to get started with our first panel. It's my pleasure to introduce our moderator for this first panel, Sean Green. Sean is the Associate Administrator of Investment at SBA, and I'll let Sean take it away.
So again, repeating the other words, thanks everyone for coming out. We're excited to be here. As a former entrepreneur, as somebody who has received the benefits of having great mentors, I'm passionate about being here. And as an investor, so one of the things I always used to tell companies that I was investing in was, the cash that we're bringing is the least important part of the equation, that it was everything else that mattered. And I would get the look from the entrepreneurs of, yeah, sure, Sean, sure. And it was always satisfying a year or two later for the entrepreneurs to come back and says, now I actually understand what you meant. So without further ado, I want to turn it over to the panelists and hear a little bit of their stories. Carol, if I could start with you. So tell us a little bit about what Accenture is doing in mentoring and how that's an example of how a large company can help entrepreneurs and small businesses.
Certainly. Welcome, everyone. I'm Carol Atack, as we mentioned. First, before I get started, I'd like to thank Justin Nelson and Chance Mitchell, who are the co-founders of the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce. Justin's in the audience today. They nominated me as to be a champion today, and it's a true honor to be here, so thank you. And to answer your question, Sean, it's really very rewarding to be part of a large company because in my role as the supplier diversity manager, program manager, we get to build a wide network with not only Accenture's executives, but also with the small and diverse businesses that we do business with, and some that want to do business with us, but we're not yet doing business with. So under our mentoring program, which is an 18-month program, we have sort of the honor of recruiting on both sides. So we recruit our executives at Accenture through networking opportunities, and we've actually been fortunate to get to the point where it's sort of caught on like wildfire, so that our executives are actually coming to us and asking if they can mentor these businesses. But with all of the diverse businesses that we do business with and ones that aspire to do business with us, we go through a selection process, a request for information, and we score them, and we basically select them out of those responses. And when they're brought into the program, not only are they partnered with an Accenture executive to act as their one-on-one mentor, and we let them figure out what they're going to work on, what areas of development they need for their business, and they tap into the expertise of those mentors at Accenture for that one-on-one mentorship. And then what we do as the supplier diversity team, there are 3 of us that work on the curriculum and the agenda, and we hold in-person quarterly training meetings in which we have many experts across Accenture's business. So being a large company and being in management consulting and technology and outsourcing, we're very fortunate to have a knowledge pool to tap into. So rarely do we have to go external for educators and for training. So they come in and speak on various topics: marketing, sales effectiveness, doing business with the government, business development, things like that. So we put that curriculum together to train them on those areas as well. And then one of the other things that we have really increased our focus on is encouraging the small and diverse businesses to collaborate with each other and to explore ways in which they can partner and team to maybe bid on new or different business.
Fantastic. And so, Lisa, we'll go to both sides of the table. Marie referenced your work with the Clean Energy Trust. Tell the group about the work that you've been doing with them, and in particular, I think it's interesting to think about, here we have in clean energy an emerging sector with tremendous growth potential, but challenging dynamics. How can mentors play a role in helping aspiring clean energy companies in this emerging industry?
Thank you, Sean. It's a very interesting question as we all look at clean energy and look at America's role in really developing clean energy and being a leader in that force. I think most of us in the room would agree we'd like to see that continue. And so how do we foster that talent and then foster those businesses? One of the challenges there is that we're really dealing with very technical talent for the most part. It's technical people who have those ideas and then have to get the marriage with the market insights and the financial insights. I'm a chemical engineer by training and had the fortune to work at larger companies as well as having a diverse background that brought me all the way into talent management. So it's understanding the technical folks and how to get them to the right mentors within the financial world, as we've talked about, as well as within the market world, and then to address those issues so it can be packaged and communicated to a larger audience. It sounds like a small problem, but really a big role of mentoring is acting to get those smaller businesses aligned with the groups that can help open those doors for them. And I think that's one of the key challenges, because there are in our country, there are a number of incubators and phenomenal work that's going on at university labs and in garages that just needs a mechanism. And as an entrepreneur in the technical world, it can be very isolating. They're not often exposed to a broader network. So one of the things that I do as a mentor is expose them to other small businesses, but also the larger companies, the Fortune 500, the Fortune 1000 here, whether it's, I won't name any names, but a GE type, #1, or a large oil company where I may have relations because of the other side of my life, which is being an entrepreneur myself and running an executive search firm where we specialize in commercialization talent, both on the strategic side as well as your typical chief technology officer. And I probably know most of them in the country. And so I try to marry those two. And that's what other mentors within the Clean Energy Trust and what the Clean Energy Trust does as well. So it's very rewarding to have that be part of my personal life and part of my professional life.
Fantastic. And so, Pablo, you also work in the technology world, a little bit of a different focus. In particular, you work a lot with minority entrepreneurs, yep, and with SpringWorks and elsewhere. Yep. Where are the challenges the same for minority entrepreneurs, sure, as with anybody else, and how are they different, and how can you help?
Sure. I mean, for tech entrepreneurship, a lot of the times it's about learning how not to, believe your own BS and really understanding what you need to go after. I mean, when you're developing a product, there's a lot of challenges about understanding your customer. So a lot of the work that I do with entrepreneurs that applies to entrepreneurship in general has to do with, you have to get out of the building, get in front of your customers, develop a product that people want to use, which a lot of times, I've certainly forgotten that at times, and I've paid dearly for it, and it's trying to share those lessons. In terms of things that are different, I mean, the reality is that Silicon Valley is really, really democratic in a lot of ways. Ideas tend to win out for their own merit, and there's a lot of capital available for that. But empirically, there's not a lot of Hispanic or African American entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley. That's just empirically not the case. And especially in a state like California that has such a huge diversity, a pool of folks that are really talented. I love working with folks to show them that this is possible, that you can basically go out and raise millions of dollars for your idea if you believe in it, and you can develop a product. And again, the part about developing the product, that applies to everybody. You have to get out of the building, you have to get in front of your customers, and build something that people actually want to use. And on the other end, it's kind of providing that, showing that the path is there and it can be done. And I do want to thank Beto Juarez, who's a grad student at MIT, and he was the person that nominated me to be here for this unexpected honor.
Fantastic. So, Michael, you're from Nashville. Now, when we say Nashville, everybody in the audience automatically thinks of country music.
I hope so.
What they don't know, or what they may not know, is that for the healthcare industry, it's one of the most important regions in the country. Yes. So you've been a serial entrepreneur. Right. But you've also helped launch an entrepreneurial center to help other entrepreneurs. How does mentoring fit into the broad suite of things that you're doing to help entrepreneurs, particularly in the healthcare industry in Nashville?
So let me begin that by just giving you a little bit of my journey so that you can appreciate why I chose to be a mentor. I grew up in the rural South, and I'll give a shout out to my mom and dad back in Mississippi because my father was a minister and my mom was a county nurse. I got to see mentoring when I was a toddler. And so growing up with two mentors in the house who took care of the health and spiritual needs of so many people, I think it was my destiny ultimately one day to be a mentor. I came to Nashville primarily to work for Hospital Corp of America. After about 10 years there, I left, and for the last 25 years, I've created and sold my own venture-backed healthcare businesses. But in starting those, the challenge was always that initial inertia of getting moving, getting your team organized, what's the business model, who's the customers, how do you get market traction, because without those things, you don't have a company. In 2007, I sold my company to a large firm in Boston. I had a 2-year lockup that I couldn't work in healthcare. So I decided to get involved with a number of our city leaders to do something about the entrepreneurial community of Nashville. And we interviewed hundreds of entrepreneurs to figure out what were their struggles, their needs, what did they really want and need to get started. And from that long list of things, we boiled it down to 3 or 4 basic things everyone needs. First, you need a place to hang out with other entrepreneurs because everybody thinks we're all a little crazy. And if you are an entrepreneur, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So having a meetup place to hang out with others was really important. Having some access to capital, which I felt I could help do, and having great mentors was extremely important. The one thing that resonates with me in being a mentor, particularly to our health and tech startups, is having been an entrepreneur, I know that incredible emotional feeling you get when you're taking virtually nothing and you're creating something from it, and that something creates jobs. It's the passion that carries you through some of the toughest days of your life as an entrepreneur, knowing that you're doing that. And personally, I think it's as close to the creators we get, is to be able to create something from nothing. And virtually every job in America comes from somebody who took the risk to do just that. So we started this journey in 2007, and we realized we needed a group of mentors to help and do something about this process. So I reached out to a lot of my colleagues in the business community, and I asked them, I said, as large company leaders and people who've had success, could I get you to give me a half a day a month of your time? Because if you'll give me a half a day and I can team you with a startup entrepreneur who hopes to be like you one day, and they get the chance to hang out and share stories with you, we'll create something magical in our city. We have over 200 local business leaders who volunteer a half day a month with us. It's allowed us to screen on an annual basis about 1,000 startups a year. We do tons of mentoring meetings all day long. And it's all volunteer-based, of people who show up every day and just help because they want to pay it forward and help somebody else. And that connection between a startup entrepreneur and a seasoned entrepreneur is really magic. And what happens is in that particular process, when you get those people together, you see people's lives being changed. And the moment you get to feel that as a mentor, you're hooked. You'll always be a mentor because you know what that enormous emotion feels like to people. This past spring, we had the opportunity to get connected with Donna and the team at Startup America and really looked at our mentoring program and said, how do we perpetuate this even further? We got in conversations with our governor, and now we've spread it across our state. We brought up 9 accelerators across the state, and by the end of this year, we'll train over 500 mentors across the state who will be volunteering their time to help a number of startups. In the last 3 years, we've gone from virtually nowhere to the 3rd best city for a minority to start a business. We've gone from nowhere to the 8th best city in America for a startup, and my goal is to make us the #1 city in America for a startup. Thank you.
Fantastic. So, Susan, when people hear, we're going to play in that regional theme, when people hear University of Miami, they think sunshine and they think football. With what you're doing, we hope that in the next few years, everybody will think of one of the most innovative entrepreneurship programs at a university anywhere in the country. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you're doing with Launchpad? And in a university setting where you have diverse stakeholders from the students to alumni to the business community in and around the University of Miami, how are you bringing all those together to help the student entrepreneurs get up and running with their first business?
Sure, thanks, Sean. The Launchpad started 3.5 years ago with two main goals. We wanted to make sure that every student who comes to the University of Miami has the opportunity to view entrepreneurship as a viable career choice, no matter what they're studying. And secondly, we wanted to make sure that those students, if they are going to start a business, we want them to do it in South Florida. So Dr. William Green and I created this program that allows students from the very basic idea stage to where they already have existing businesses. They have a safe place to come to share fully confidentially, but have a support system. And we're basically cheerleaders because unfortunately so many of these kids, their parents, their friends, their family, everyone is saying, be careful, get a normal job, get health insurance. Instead, we're saying, try it, and what's the worst thing that'll happen? You're 20, if it doesn't work, okay, you're 21, right? So it's been just nothing short of a magical journey getting to work with these kids, because if they didn't have us, there really was no place to go. And at most college campuses, even where there is an entrepreneurship center, it doesn't have this culture that we've created. We focus on slow success, which means you don't have to have the best idea in the world and then go execute it. We help develop the individual. If the individual has a good foundation, the venture will also have a good foundation. So we focus on what we call slow success. It takes a little longer, but then if that first idea doesn't work, that student is able to jump forward with their next idea, and all of the possible feasibility issues that they had in the first one, they've already figured them out for the second one. So it's been incredible. How we bring in the community is very simple. Because it is so focused on keeping our students from all over the world staying in South Florida to start their businesses, the community has embraced this and want to do whatever they can. I actually brought one of our venture coaches, Stetson Glines, who's an excellent example of somebody who's been an entrepreneur all his life, but he wants to give back. We have over 60 members of the business community in our venture coaching program who volunteer 5 hours a month to help. And it's been a wonderful journey to have the community embrace it, to have alumni embrace it, but it's really taken on a life of its own. So in these last 3 years, as we've been operational, we've had over 65 businesses created, new businesses, over 150 jobs created, in addition to helping hundreds of existing businesses get to the next level from both our students and our alumni. And as we go forward, the Blackstone Charitable Foundation has replicated our model now to 6 other universities. Part of what we've done so well with the mentoring piece is we're tracking not just our staff involvement and impact that our staff has as it relates to mentoring and consulting with our entrepreneurs, but we're tracking how our mentors from the community work and how they're interconnecting to make a network unto themselves. So it's been really transformational for our community. And now that we're able to link these entrepreneurs and their mentors across these 7 universities throughout the country, we look forward to seeing what comes of that. I think it's going to be really cool. I just want to thank, again, Donna Harris and the entire team at Startup America has been able to help us realize how to make our state better too. And I'm proud to be part of the leadership from the state of Florida for Startup Florida and part of whatever I can do for Startup America going forward.
Great. Thanks, Susan. And White House disclosure rules require me to say that Dr. William Green, the co-founder, is no relation to Sean Green. So what I'd like to do is segue off that bad joke into what I'll call the lightning round. And so I've got a question, and I'd love to give to each of you to kind of go through quickly. And so one question is, what is that one piece of advice that you, with your mentor hats, if every entrepreneur and aspiring entrepreneur out there could have, what's that one piece of advice that you could give? And I'll kick it off by something someone once told me, and they said, forget Marshall McLuhan and the medium being the message. You are the message. And that was the one piece of advice I always give to entrepreneurs. But we'll turn it back to you. Pablo, can I lead it off with you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to repeat something I said earlier. Get out of the building. I mean, literally 15 minutes in front of a customer, watching them use your service, product, whatever it is worth 10 hours at the office talking about what you think that they actually want. So that's really, that's it.
Lisa?
And I will be similar in my message to Pablo, in that I mentor a lot of scientists and technologists. It's mark your message to your audience. If you're talking to a finance guy, talk about numbers. If you're talking to a marketing person, talk about growth and market share. If you're talking to another PhD physicist, you can go as deep as you want on the molecules, but the finance guys don't care. So mark your message to your audience.
Great. Michael?
So if you've ever heard me, two things I always say to every entrepreneur. First is if your shiny object doesn't make money, it's art. It's not a business. Hang it on the wall, but don't try to make a business out of it. That's number one, okay? I think that one works pretty well. The number two thing I try to tell every entrepreneur is that every business idea, even mine after 3 healthcare businesses, my next idea will be off at least 10 degrees from the design. And to close that gap is how I close to get to profitability and get customers. We all start 10 degrees off perfect if we struggle and do well. And closing that gap is essential for success. And to close it, you really got to talk to customers. You got to get out in front of advisors. You've got to build a team. And closing that gap is essential to create a successful business. If you simply work your plan, you'll fail.
Great. Carol?
I would say always be networking. So you can never stop networking because you never know when you're talking to your next mentor or even protege. We've had some of our suppliers that are proteges that are actually mentoring other small businesses. So you never know who you're talking to that could be a future mentor or protege, and even the organizations that help us team and find these great suppliers to mentor. So just always be leveraging that network.
Susan?
I would say 2 things. Number one, definitely stay humble because you do have something to learn from everyone. But the second piece is have multiple mentors. And when they disagree, that's great because you get to delve in further as to why and really understand what's right for your business. It's all about what's right for your business, and only your gut can tell you what's right for you.
Great. And so round 2 of the lightning round. So that focused on the advice to the entrepreneurs. Now I'll ask you to do a similar, what's that one piece of advice to other mentors who want to get engaged with entrepreneurs? There are plenty of ways to do that right and plenty of ways to do that wrong. So what's that one piece of advice to aspiring mentors about how they can be most effective? Pablo, can I go back to you?
So what I tell the people I mentor is that the advice that I give them is worth what they paid for it. So they literally have to, find their own truth from, the little piece of what I'm sharing with them, and then go talk to lots of other people. From a mentor perspective, what that means is whatever has been my path doesn't necessarily is going to equate to whatever the path of the person that I mentor is going to be, right? So really offer your experience, and sometimes getting out of the way is just as valuable or more valuable than trying to, impose whatever, my experience might be on the mentorship relationship, because their particular path at that point is different. So.
That's great. Lisa?
My message to other mentors is a process that we are mentoring, which means you have to be available from a time perspective, from an urgency perspective, and even from an issues perspective. You may not expect that the biggest issue on the CEO's plate for a startup company is a talent issue or a legal issue or a technical issue, but it's going to come from all sides. And your job as a mentor is to mentor that whole process, not to lock yourself into your area of expertise, but to embellish the process.
So we focus on fast growth startups that are scalable. Honestly, only about 30% of those founders will be the CEO within 5 years. Most of them will get replaced with a different CEO because they lack critical thinking skills to grow. So when I'm training mentors, I'm trying to get them to help that young CEO founder think about how to lead a company, not just simply get the answer. Because if I just give you an answer, I can't teach you to lead a business, and that's really, really important. So rule number 1 of every mentor, it's really important, it's called the nacho cheese rule. And it means this is not your cheese, it's theirs. You are not going to be their CEO, they have to be their own CEO. Ask good questions, ask open questions, get them to critically think, because if they can learn critical thinking skills, they'll be able to scale their business and they'll still be leading it when it gets big.
I would say for mentors, never sell yourself short. We have a lot of executives at Accenture that want to be part of our mentoring program, but they're not sure how they can help a small or diverse business. And sort of piggyback off what Lisa said, it doesn't have to be your area of expertise. While that is probably the most well-aligned talent and thing that you can offer, there's always something that a business can learn from you in all of your life experience, whether it's personal experience or what you do in your daily job. But just always never sell yourself short on that. Yeah.
Especially in mentoring entrepreneurs, it's often very hard not to focus on getting that venture going. So I want to echo what Michael said, because in our venture coaching program, it takes us a long time sometimes to get somebody understanding that they're not there to just put somebody down or say that won't work. Because when that happens, that could turn off that entrepreneur's momentum internally, and that might be the end of not just that business journey, but them trying to be an entrepreneur, period. So really spending the time to understand the individual and helping them grow makes all the difference in the world.
Great. So we have a few more minutes left in this panel. Wanted to just give a quick chance for folks from the audience if they have any questions they want to throw to the group.
Hi, I'm Carol Reese, Richmond, Virginia Resources, Inc. And I have a question for you with the entrepreneurship at the college. What would you find is the biggest challenge? The students to enter the program, staying in the program, or getting the program message across to the outside, to the mentors who are trying to get to help them?
Actually, we haven't had a problem with any of those things. Our big problem has been that, and I'm female, so I feel very comfortable saying this, a lot of the female students come in with headband companies and bakery ideas, and I'm not kidding. The first day we opened, a male student came in saying he needed $600 million to start his space travel company. So that's Sinha Astronautics, and they are awesome. But the point is, the male students tend to think much bigger, and the female students do not. So that's been our challenge, and we're working towards getting the female students to just think bigger and believe in themselves and understand, the only limit is their imagination.
Great.
Hi, my name is Sonia Stockton, a former SBDC Regional Director and an enterprise consultant for E200. My question is to Carol Addick. Have you looked at perpetuating your model with other large corporations in your area so that you could replicate that same process with a lot more businesses, large companies, to assist more small businesses in your area?
I'll just repeat the question so everybody can hear it. The question was for Carol of, great what you're doing with Accenture, how can we replicate it to get many other large corporations doing similar things to help small businesses?
We are exploring that. We have had some of our corporate peers just hear about our program out in the marketplace from the suppliers that have gone through the program and asked us if we can share best practices. So we are exploring that, yes. So thanks for asking.
My name is Bob Ampula. I'm with SCORE, Eastern Shore Chapter of Maryland. How does some of this, anybody can answer it, how does some of this transfer to small rural counties as opposed to large corporations, metropolitan areas?
So the question was, how do these lessons, insights translate to small rural areas, not just large metro areas?
We work with rural entrepreneurs all across Tennessee. Once you get outside of the 4 main cities, everybody lives on a dirt road. So the good news is that with good telecom, I can Skype in. If you don't have telecom, you got a phone, and phones work really well. My parents have one. We're still on the party line, but it still works. So we do a lot of work by phone as well. The funny thing I found is rural entrepreneurs, particularly if you meet them where they are, and it's all about, how to best use the land and the natural resources that are around them, or how they best can leverage their small community to do something around tourism in Tennessee or other things. We find some pretty amazing ideas out in our rural markets. One of our small rural towns just started a call center and has employed a significant number of their residents doing backup call support for a bigger corporation in the city. We also have a small community that started a technical training in Ruby on Rails programming, believe it or not, and they're teaching high school seniors and other young people who can't go to college how to take those jobs. And we've got a person that goes in and teaches, and now they are doing a backup support programming for some bigger companies that are 100 miles away.
I think we have time for one more question in the back.
My name is Dottie Lee. I'm with Trans-Pacific Communications. America's workforce is 15% of America's workforce is foreign-born professionals. I'm one of them. I'm sure lots of folks in this room are also foreign-born. How do you folks help people, mentor folks who are from other cultures?
So the question is, how for foreign-born entrepreneurs who are here in the States now, how do the people mentor individuals who are from other cultures?
Well, I'll take it. I'm foreign-born. And I've worked with some folks that are both first and second generation entrepreneurs. I think a lot of times is, sharing with them that you understand. I mean, there are some cultural differences and some things that you have to, kind of understand about the system before you can change that system and make a difference from within, right? So I think there's, sharing what my own experience has been as an immigrant, I think is, and there are lots of channels and lots of people out there who want to help, up and coming entrepreneurs. It's just sometimes navigating all those channels is difficult. I mean, I was a part of a program called MLT, Management Leadership for Tomorrow, and they were really helpful in helping me figure out some of the channels before I applied to business school. And that same way, there's, helping folks understand how to navigate those channels is good.
Great. So if I can, we are out of time. Those of you who have questions, maybe there'll be some time on the second panel. But your federal government on time and on budget. We want to make sure that we're sticking to that. So one more round of applause, please, for this panel of champions.
We're just going to get repositioned here, so bear with us for just a second. But I think that first panel was a great discussion, and I know we're all looking forward to the next panel here. So if our next panel can join the stage. And go anywhere. And thank you again to Sean for moderating the panel and for your passion and leadership on this topic. We do have another special guest who will be moderating the second panel. We're honored to be joined here by Michael Chodos. Michael is the Associate Administrator of Entrepreneurial Development at SBA. And I'll let Michael take it away.
Thank you very much. And this was, the wonderful thing about mentoring is that it involves the personal experiences and the wisdom and the knowledge of each individual who acts as a mentor. And I must say that today was the first time I'd heard the nacho cheese rule, but it resonated with me as it sort of syncs up with what I've heard, what I've done, and what I've heard from mentors for the many, many years that I've been working with small businesses. So let me explain. I work for the Small Business Administration as well, as does Sean. I am the head of the agency's Office of Entrepreneurial Development. So the agency is deeply involved in working through its mentoring organizations and network with small businesses day in and day out. We have 3 primary organizations, SCORE, our small business development centers, and our women's business centers that provide daily, effective, meaningful individual mentoring to small businesses. I just want to say, by the way, our 14,000 strong network of those folks is managed by some people here in the federal government who work extremely hard every day. We actually have the head of our 4 offices here. I just want to give a special shout out to Ellen Thrasher, from our Office of Entrepreneurial Education, Anna Harvey, who is in charge of our women's business centers, Scott Henry, who is in charge of our cluster initiatives, excuse me, and Ann Bradbury, who is in charge of Office of Small Business Development Centers. But the SBA's vast network of mentors does not do what it does alone. It works all day, every day with the vast ecosystem of entrepreneurial support all across the country and in every community. And we have on our panel here today some wonderful examples of folks with whom we work and who provide excellent tools, support, and mentorship every single day. And we're going to hear a little bit about that in a minute. So I just wanted to start, and perhaps I can start with Samira over here to my right. Entrepreneurial mentoring is only one of the tools available for supporting entrepreneurs. So I've heard it said before, I'd rather be pulled by a vision than pushed by a plan. I think we all can agree with that in part. However, if what you're planning to do is to start a business, it's best to have a plan as well. And if you don't, problems will arise. And so a lot of business planning, a lot of information gathering, that's part of what we do. But the part of entrepreneurship, the dimensions of entrepreneurship that are unique, relate to the relationship between the individual who is the mentee and the individual who's the mentor, and the experience that the mentor brings into that one-to-one relationship that allows them to move things forward. So let me start with you, Samira, and say, what is an example of an experience where your experience, your personal life experiences, and your personal knowledge and expertise has allowed you to engage in a one-to-one mentoring relationship with somebody where all of that made the difference?
Well, at the Women's Business Center, it's funny, I say I have the best job in the world because I get to hang out with my girlfriends all day. And I really do make very close relationships with the women that we work with and the men, because we don't turn the men away. They're great support. For me, in my life, I've had great mentors, and that was the first thing that I brought to the Women's Business Center. I know that women have the confidence to care, and we care about everyone. We care about each other, ourselves, our children, our family members, but we don't always have the confidence to mentor. Sometimes the formal tag makes it a little stuffy. So what I've done is taken something that we've always done back home in Jersey. My mom walks in a park. And anytime there were times in my life when I was kind of stressed or kind of wanted to connect, we'd go for a walk. And that kind of bled into my middle school, high school years. We'd meet our friends at the park, and we'd go for a walk. We'd take our bikes and meet at the park. So I kind of brought it to DC, and we meet at the park. So my mentorship relationship with my women really happened when we can sit down and have one-on-one conversations through our counseling, and when we can meet at our women's business walk and talk. We meet down at the National Mall, and it's sneakers and sweats, baby carriages and girlfriends, hair back, always some lip gloss for me, but it's one of those things where you're relaxed, you can connect, and it really is something that has been a personal experience that I feel is a blessing in my life, and I wanted to kind of give that to our women. So it really creates an organic mentorship opportunity. A great example of that is we have a business owner who always comes to the walk and talk. She's never at any counseling sessions, but she's 10 years plus in business. And she met, she's a CPA firm, and she met one of our startup businesses who was a startup export consulting business. And just meeting at the walk and talk, she really had a lot of kind of faith and belief in this young business and decided to pay for her business training classes at the Women's Business Center. Now, these two women are, in very different places, and their businesses are in very different places. But, you can't knock the power of, sneakers and ponytails at the National Mall, because it was an organic connection that I think really, really pushed this young business forward. So I really try to make a place for that. And from my personal life to my professional life, this is kind of how it's come full circle, and I love it.
Thank you, Samira. Ted, let me ask you, you've been working for many, many years in providing entrepreneurship support and mentoring to America's vets. And we talk a lot about the fact that anyone can be a mentor, but there is something about the connection that is made from shared experience between the mentor and the mentee that can provide a dimension to the relationship that allows that learning to take place. What can you tell us about what it means to provide mentoring to a group that is defined by shared experiences, such as by being a veteran?
Good question. Again, I'm Ted Lasser, and I'm here to represent not only myself, but my team. I wouldn't be here if the team wasn't as good or better than I am. So I just want to thank those individuals. I think there's certainly a camaraderie among veterans. And being a Vietnam War veteran myself, there were many years where I really didn't want much to do with the military. And I even think that today, with some of the young veterans who are coming home, probably have that same feeling. And it's an experience that bonds you forever. It would probably be something that would bring us together in a much deeper capacity than anybody could imagine, knowing that we have shared perhaps a situation where your life was at stake or you saved somebody else's life. And that's a bond that will always be there for us. So we try really hard to leverage that among our veteran entrepreneurs. And when they come into the program, we have sort of a more of a global view of things, and that is to realign the mind, the body, and the soul. Because a young venture and a young entrepreneur has to have all of those things in line so that they can be successful. And in doing so, we sort of bring them back down and bring them solid grounds so that we can start working and mentoring them into developing their business, their venture through the program.
Ted, thank you. It's something you said resonated with something I heard recently. I was at a financial empowerment workshop just a couple of weeks ago, and it was being led by members of the faith-based community who were talking about entrepreneurship. And one of the ministers who was there speaking to everybody said, starting businesses is a critical part of community, but you have to have people who are whole in order to start the business. And he said, in order to start a business, you need, first and foremost, a spiritual plan, then a financial plan, then a business plan. And a lot of mentoring has to do with dealing with the one-to-one human relationship. Everybody has their own needs. This is not about anything in particular, but it has to do with making connections with whatever the person needs when they walk through the front door. So, Emily, I thought I would ask you, you do community development work, affordable housing work, and capacity building in those areas. That is obviously a passion of yours. What is it that you bring with that passion to your mentoring relationships?
Thank you for having me, because I am a little bit different in that the program, the organization that I founded, Community Rebuilds, wasn't to directly mentor young emerging professionals to go into the construction industry with the knowledge of how to build green, how to build energy efficient, and with energy efficiency and affordability. I started my program with an orientation of affordability, so how to build homes affordably. And as I started digging through how to do that, I realized that training young emerging professionals in the construction industry to build a certain type of a certain product that wasn't really available, there was a need to train people how to do that. So it was sort of a roundabout way to start a mentor program, which was to start with a community-based need. There was a question about rural, how do you train mentors in rural communities? And I would say look for needs. Each community has its own unique, character. Where I come from, Moab, Utah, population's under 10,000 people. We're surrounded by vast wilderness, national parks, and so we have a need for affordable housing. We also have an opportunity because Moab's such a beautiful place to be. I kind of put it all together and created an organization that was attractive enough to bring people from all over the country to learn green construction. I try to serve as inspiration to the folks that are coming to learn how to build energy efficient and affordable housing with my organization, to say go back to your communities, look for your housing need, and you can do it, because if I could do it in Moab, Utah, you can do it anywhere.
Thank you. Actually, Nancy, why don't we talk to you? Nancy, you work with SCORE, and SCORE is in many ways the largest network that the agency has in terms of participation. It's a network of volunteers who actually give back their time in order to mentor others. And I am fond of saying there is no power in the world as great as that is the heart of a volunteer. So we all, as mentors, are going above and beyond any particular job, any particular description. We're doing it because it matters and because it's important. What is it about your experience that brought you to SCORE, and why is it that you are now engaging in mentoring with small businesses?
Well, thank you, Michael. First off, on behalf of SCORE, I'd like to thank the folks from SCORE for bringing me here today. But most importantly, I'd like to thank the 13,000 volunteers that we have, coast to coast, that really do make a difference in a small business person's life. So with that, how did I start as mentoring? My career started in a small company called Procter & Gamble. And I was very fortunate at the time to be mentored by an extraordinary group of men. And that would be the case because back when I started in the 70s, there were no women mentors. So my mentoring experience really came about from an internal feeling that I wanted to give back to a generation of women that really weren't there for me, but I had great men as mentors, so it was my turn to give back. So through my corporate life, I really felt an obligation and a opportunity to spend time with younger women coming into our organization, as well as peers, to make sure that we were supporting each other. When I left and went on to other adventures in my career, I had an opportunity once again. Every time you step off and do a new opportunity for a career choice, you have an opportunity to really step out of the box. And I felt that I could do that with my skills and my talents. But most importantly, I was able to give back to a new organization wherever I would land. A former mentor at Procter & Gamble actually suggested that I get involved with SCORE. And the intersection of SCORE and my life came about 2 years ago when I moved to, as we call it, the great state of Maine. Hopefully you've all been up to visit, and if you haven't, we would like to welcome you, particularly in the summer. But 2 years ago, I relocated to the great state of Maine, and I really dialed back my own consultancy company that I run and own, and that gave me an opportunity to connect with an organization. So I actually shopped around to organizations in Portland to see what was there, and I had a friend who said, you know, you really ought to take a look at SCORE with your business skills. So SCORE, for me, was the ideal fit of being able to give back my business experience to a group of people who are desperately in need of confidence, someone to talk to, someone to build their dreams with. So I felt that I started the journey with SCORE a year and a half ago, and I lead the organization now. We have 26 certified mentors in our organization, and Portland, Maine is made up of many, many small businesses. 98% of the businesses in the state of Maine are all small businesses. And we believe, all of us in the Portland chapter, that it's important for our entrepreneurs to fail forward. And to fail forward, they really need someone to be talking to, someone to share their dreams with, but also someone who gives them what I call, and I employ this, is what I call my tough love. Particularly as we mentor, sometimes people need some tough love because they're not going to get where they're going to go if they don't get it. So I use my style and give them a little tough love, get them back on the right track so that they can achieve their dreams. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Excuse me, Tom, let me ask you, we heard in the last panel that when you're a small business and you're developing a product and it's a shiny product, if the customer doesn't want it, it's just a shiny product. You have to think about what it is that your customer wants. If the value proposition doesn't show up for your customer, it's not a business. Maybe a hobby, maybe fun, but it's not a business. Well, when you're a mentor, you bring a tremendous amount of experience of your own to business, to decisions you've made along the way, your experience. It's among the greatest strengths that a mentor has in the relationship. But this is somebody else's dream and vision, kind of by definition. That's why they're coming to see you in the first place. I know that you had a long career before you came to work for the Small Business Development Center. How in your mentoring relationships do you balance empowering the mentee to realize and to pursue their vision while doing what Nancy was talking about a minute ago about giving them tough love or clarity if needed, and also not making it your business, have it be their business? How do you balance all those things?
Well, the first is I had over 35 years of experience with two large companies that were highly decentralized, and they allowed us to run our operations as if they were small businesses. So that helped a lot. When I retired, I started with SCORE. And I discovered that a lot of small businesses fail. There was stories about small businesses failing. So I set about looking for the reasons they fail based on my experience. And what I found is basically entrepreneurs are great, but they have a very narrow focus. And so what I work with them on is basically, how do I expand your focus? How do I get you to understand that you're not just a boat mechanic? You want to start a boat business as being a boat mechanic or maybe selling boats. And so we have to take them through all the steps that it takes. But one of the things I do with most of my clients is I do a feasibility study. And we sit down and say, this is a great idea. Is it feasible? How much is it going to cost to make this product? How much is it going to cost you to provide the service? How many of these do you have to sell? Or how much service do you have to provide before it becomes a business? Because a business is not just doing something you like doing, it's also making a profit. And the feasibility study, in a lot of cases, helps them look at, maybe it's not as great an idea as I thought it was, and then I don't try to discourage them. I say, how can we modify it to make it more successful? Or what can we change as part of your business plan to make it have a greater opportunity to succeed? Along those lines, too, one of the things we did, since I think it's sort of holistic, you just don't start a business by knowing how to do one thing. We created a local network of people, similar organizations, so that if a person wants to start a business, we can determine what needs he has, and we can provide him mentors in each one of those areas to help him succeed, because now he's looking at his total business instead of just one aspect of his business. I apply that same approach with students. We have 2 local colleges that do have great entrepreneur centers. And we do the same thing with students as we teach them to try that they want to go into business. But we also teach them to not look for jobs, but really to look for a company that will help you launch a career. So that's some of the things we like to do.
Thank you. I think we want to start the first of our lightning rounds of questions. And I'll start with you, Ted. And one of the things we've talked about mentorship, which distinguishes mentorship from all of the different tools that we have in the toolkit, is this thing called relationship. A mentor-mentee relationship is generally not defined as a question comes in over the board and it gets responded to, and that's the end of it. That's not really what we define as mentorship. It's a relationship that forms around all of the needs that begin to show up over time. So there are all kinds of challenges that are faced by real businesses as they get started. Not all businesses are in the high-tech range. Not all businesses have access to venture capital on day one. Not all businesses have adequate exposure out in the marketplace. So there are a host of marketing, planning, staffing, and other challenges that small businesses face. I'd like to just focus on one and talk about, as a mentor, what do you do since you're in a relationship with a small business around, for example, the challenge of funding and capital. Many startups with whom you deal, I'm sure, have a vision, a dream, a plan, and maybe even some significant skills that might well be marketable and might be the foundation for a business. But the first thing they say is, where do I get my first 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, or 50,000? How do you work, Ted, with your vets who come in, who have the right skills, have the right idea, and are willing to work on a plan, but need to work through a big challenge, say, for example, access to funding?
Sure. What a huge challenge for us in that regard, because a veteran that would come to us typically hasn't settled down and own a house and have equity and things of those sort. Their credit score may be very low if they have one in most cases. I referenced the title here, Champions of Change. That's one of the things that we want to try to do is make some changes out there. One being my personal goal here is, with some hope and luck and some skills, I would like to see a funding source come out of the GI Bill. Because right now, as a veteran comes home, they can either go to school, get some education, some training, buy a house, and we'd like to take that opportunity and provide through the GI Bill seed money to start a business so that they have that choice as well. The funding's already there. It's just appropriated in a different fashion, but that is a really important aspect of a startup is to be able to have a little bit of seed money, and it increases tenfold their success rate to be able to bring that company to the next level. And a lot of entrepreneurs do get into trouble because they go to their friends, families, and fools and try to find ways to fund themselves, and sometimes a credit card. So that is a huge problem, but there are some things that we're trying to do, trying to work with the Patriot Partners, the Patriot Express program, and some other things that we've done internally to provide some funding, but very, very important.
Samira, so what is it that you bring as a mentor to a problem that shows up as one that you just can't solve just by snapping your fingers? And you have a small business and it seems to be up against a challenge and you need to be able to stay with them and work with them as they go through it. How does that show up in your mentoring?
Well, in our mentoring at the DC Women's Business Center, it's interesting the access to capital question, because what I see from many of my businesses is they want to tell you the bright idea. They want to kind of get you to buy in. But I feel like it's that personal relationship, as you mentioned, that really connects you to a business and to the business owner, the person, the heart of the business. And that's when you can say, okay, really, how much have you saved? That's when you can say, oh, really, how maxed out is that credit card? You know, how many people do you owe? And I feel like, you know, again, I mentioned, you know, working with my girlfriends. Once you establish a relationship, you can ask those hard questions as a mentor, as a coach, as a counselor to these businesses. And the DC Women's Business Center has a great relationship. We are hosted by the National Community Reinvestment Coalition, and there is a community development fund. It's a microloan, which is a loan of $50,000 or less, and we really continue that kind of hand-holding and relationship building into that microloan program. So we'll have some of our Women's Business Center clients go through, say, a financial training course, and then we put them safely in the hands of our partners. Because, again, I've established relationships with the partners. We can talk comfortably about finances, and the business is comfortable. She knows that when she comes to us, it's confidential. She knows that when she comes to us, we really are not going to introduce her to, you know, a lender or funding that's not going to be good for her. So for me, I really think once you know a business and you've put that time in, and you can ask them how things are going, and they can really share their finances with you, which is really kind of close, you can really kind of make that connection. And as a mentor, you really need to make sure it's a strong connection. It's a trusted connection. The money and the business are on the line, so you want to make sure that that's something you can count on.
Thank you, Samira. Nancy, we talked about the fact that a mentor sticks with you as you're working through challenges. What is the role that you feel you play as a mentor in dealing with a business that may not want to really understand or acknowledge the challenges and then needs to work through them?
I find that when a business owner doesn't want to understand the challenges, we take a step back before we take a step forward. And the step back really involves a series of questions to help them understand what their deficiency gaps are. There are no shortage of great ideas in the world. The difference is very few ideas are executable. So without a great execution plan, most ideas will fail. So the relationship building part is really spending time asking the critical questions to help an entrepreneur understand what the deficiency gap is in terms of how they're thinking of going forward in their plan. It may be financial, it may be funding. It's interesting as you ask the funding question. At least half of the folks that show up at SCORE, their first question is, I'm here for my grant. And all righty then. So we start with, do you know how much funding you're looking for? And that's an interesting question. Could you be surprised how many people say, oh, well, no, I'm thinking maybe 50 grand, and it's kind of throwing up the hands. And so that gives you an opportunity to really step back with them, assess, talk about putting a cash flow forecast together, helping them understand exactly what they're going to need. And then within the community, having a good understanding of our resource partners. In Portland, Maine, we are very blessed with folks who really understand microloans, grants, technology grants, and it's being able to match that entrepreneur where they are with the kind of financial program that they may need. But it all starts with making sure they understand the reality of what they need before they ask the funding question.
Tom, we have about 3 minutes left, so I want to hear from both of you in this last couple of minutes we have. Is your personal experience relevant in helping small businesses that you mentor work through these challenges?
Oh, I believe so. I think I've had to work through some of them in my personal experience, and I use the same principles to help them work through the problems. When we mentioned funding, though, I think that's the part where the mentee doesn't have to do, the mentor has to do more than the mentee. The mentor has to be aware of all the funding programs that are available to this potential entrepreneur. They also have to understand where the gaps are. And I think the mentors have to work to try to fill the gaps, either with local companies that will lend money to development, either with local governments that will lend money, or somehow see if there's a program I can develop, as Ted was saying, GI Bill, something to help fill the gap that's missing for these potentials. So I think they keep me working, trying to find ways to help them get funded.
Emily, let me ask you, is there something you bring from your personal experience that helps you map a course out for the mentees as you work with them?
For sure, because what I'm bringing to them is the experience of how to do something totally different, how to find the funding source to build energy efficient, and I build straw bale homes in Utah. It's tricky. So I'm bringing to the table, you know, the challenges that I face to start the program, to train them to continue that work. I have a great relationship with the state director of Utah for USDA Rural Development, Dave Conine, who is actually the person, thank you for bringing me here. He believed in what I was doing, and he wanted to see more grow, more homes get built. And so he believed in me. He connected me to funding sources. Now I can connect those people to the funding sources that I found. And the other thing that I'm doing is trying to change a paradigm with what I'm doing, and that's really hard. And so I have to continue my work personally in order to be the most effective, not only mentor, but inspiration to the people that I'm sending out into the workforce.
Thank you. And I know we had wanted to save some time for questions, but I think we're actually out of time. We have a couple more minutes? Okay, great. Yes?
I have a question. Nancy, you mentioned that there's a certification process for mentors or coaches with SCORE, and I wondered if you could elaborate on that a little bit.
Well, SCORE instituted a certification program this past year, and anyone who joins SCORE as a mentor today has to be certified. It's an online program. It's 6 modules of training. When you've completed the training, you actually get a certificate. And we in Portland, if you are going to work as a mentor, you have to be a certified mentor. So we mandate in our chapter that everybody has to be certified to coach, counsel, or mentor, whatever your word is.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. I'm just elated to be here, and I'm very impressed to see you all because I know pretty much what you're doing. I'm with the Women's Business Center in Austin, Texas. My name is Claudia, and nice to see you. I've heard about you. Natalie is in Austin now with the Chamber of Commerce there. I wanted to ask you, Ted, with our military coming home and those that you're working with as they transition from military to civilian, do you see the problems there? And I was wondering if you are, do you align yourself with resources to be able to address because what I've noticed in counseling business assistance. It's two different things, but we have to do that, oftentimes with women, right? And now I've noticed with veterans, some women that I've had the opportunity to work with, having to peel back and to see what's really there, because it seems that their mindset is that they're still serving their country. So therefore, they're doing without.
So let me repeat it for the live stream because they can't hear. So the question was, Ted, in terms of dealing with our returning vets and the needs that they have around entrepreneurship, have you found that there are links that you need to make on their behalf or specific forms of assistance that work best?
First of all, it's a process of understanding what they've just gone through. And I think part of our name indicates what we're doing. We're trying to transfer skill sets and things that they've learned inside the military and actually teach them how to take those skill sets and become entrepreneurs, how to build businesses. These are things that they're going to learn, that they're going to be able to start a company 10 years, 20 years, 30 years from now as well. So we do have to peel back the onion, and we do have to look at what's inside them and what's really bothering them and try to overcome those. We didn't realize we were going to become counselors in that process. But to even create any kind of success in building a business, that base had to be set first. So we are experiencing that, and I know we're short on time.
Yep, well done. Okay, listen, thank you, everyone. We have no more time for questions, so the red card went up. Thank you.
You guys can stay. You guys can stay. Oh, sorry. Thank you, Michael, and thank you to our second panel. I think they deserve another round of applause. I want to remind everyone here today and watching online, again, you can learn more about our champions from both panels by going to www.whitehouse.gov/champions. I also wanted to thank our speakers and moderators one more time for taking part in this event. And a special thank you goes to the staff at SBA and the Office of Science Technology Policy, who also did the lion's share of today's work to get you all here today, and hopefully continue to work with all of you in the great work that you're doing. Now, before we go, I wanted to introduce our final speaker. Thomas Khalil is the Deputy Director for Policy with the Office of Science and Technology Policy. He also sits on the National Economic Council. So I'll turn it over to Thomas to make concluding remarks.
Well, good afternoon. It's a real pleasure, and I want to thank everyone for giving me this invitation to provide a 3-hour presentation on the administration's Startup America initiative. I wanted to do two things. Number one, just join all the other previous speakers in thanking you for what you're doing in terms of helping to provide mentorship for entrepreneurs. There's no more important thing that we could be doing for the future of our economy and to increase economic growth and job creation and broadly shared prosperity. And also to tell you a little bit about what the administration is doing to promote and encourage high-growth entrepreneurship. And the administration's Startup America initiative that the White House launched last year really has three stools, three legs to the stool. One is what can the Congress do? And the good news front on that is that the president talked about this in the Jobs Act speech that he gave in the fall. And these are common sense ideas that are being embraced by both Democrats and Republicans in the House and Senate. The House is scheduled to pass this legislation later this week. So we're very encouraged by the progress that is being made on legislation that would enable crowdfunding, so enable small businesses to get investments, small investments from lots of individual investors, to increase the size of the mini public offerings under Regulation A, and to make it easier for companies to go public by providing an IPO on-ramp and addressing things like Sarbanes-Oxley that have made it more costly and time-consuming for young firms to go public. So those are all things that we think are really going to encourage and promote high-growth entrepreneurship. So that's what the Congress can do, and I'm optimistic that we're really going to make progress on that issue this year. And I should say that there are not an infinite number of issues where President Obama and Cantor and Boehner are working together. So that is good news. The second thing is that the administration has identified a series of things that we can do through executive action that do not require legislation. And whether that is speeding up the commercialization of federally funded research, or the fantastic work that Sean Green at SBA has done in revitalizing the SBIC program and providing additional private sector investment in small businesses and high-growth entrepreneurs. Whether it's an initiative that the president launched that will allow students to pay as you earn, as they earn, and therefore make it more likely that they're going to consider entrepreneurship because they won't have to deal with this upfront crushing student debt. A whole series of things that the administration is trying to do to expand access to capital, move new ideas from the lab to the market, identify and remove burdensome regulations that are getting in the way. Those are all things that the administration is really committed to doing. And we've also been providing support for mentorship programs, whether it's the SBA, Department of Energy, Entrepreneurial Mentor Corps, some of the programs that you've heard today from the Department of Veterans Affairs on helping our veterans start businesses. The National Science Foundation has provided a $10 million grant to provide a National Center for Teaching Innovation and Entrepreneurship at nearly 350 engineering schools throughout the United States. And the NSF also launched something called the Innovation Corps, or I-Corps program, that is pairing up faculty and students that may have a breakthrough invention, but they need help in order to move that idea and commercialize that and bring that into the marketplace. So those are some of the things that the administration is doing that do not require any legislation, but just require really focusing on this issue like a laser beam. And we really encourage you to give us additional ideas for what more we can be doing. And finally, the last thing is what the private sector can do. And here we've been extraordinarily grateful for the fact that the private sector has stepped up, led by Steve Case, the co-founder of AOL, and the Kaufman Foundation. They launched something called the Startup America Partnership, and they have already mobilized over $1 billion of financial and in-kind commitments from 50 companies that are helping high-growth entrepreneurs. And if you are an entrepreneur and you have not signed up for your kit, you should do so. The URL is very easy to remember. It's just s.co. So very easy to remember. And not only is there this activity at the national level, but you now have 18 states that have committed to form regions. And so states around the country are working together, state and local government, the private sector, successful entrepreneurs, universities, institutional investors, big companies are all beginning to work together to improve the local ecosystem for starting and scaling small and young businesses. So we're just getting started, but we're pleased with the progress that we've been making to date. And I just wanted to tell you, keep your ideas coming and keep on doing the phenomenal work that you're doing every day to help America's entrepreneurs. Thank you very much.
Now that does conclude our event. Thank you all very much for coming.